Welcome everybody to Webisode Watch episode 17. Today we are talking with the co-creators of Life of Matt. We have with ourselves Travis and Matt. So guys, why don't you introduce yourself? We can start with Travis and tell us what you do on the show.
Hey, my name is Travis Strong. I'm one of the producers slash directors of the web series Life of Matt. That's about it. Matt?
My name is Matt Sinnott. I'm actually Matt. I also wrote it, helped produce it, did a little bit of everything, and I'm also editing all of them as well.
All right, guys. So how did Life of Matt come to pass? Talk to us a little bit about the creative process.
Well, with many ideas for a movie, it happened in a bar. Travis and I have been working together off and on for years, and I had this idea. Actually, Kyle and Ralph, who are my friends in the show, their real names are Ori and Jeremiah, and we actually worked at the Apple Store together. And I always wanted to do some sort of project that, yeah, it's funny, that it involved the dating world and how it was and all that. And that both of those guys are actors, so I had talked to them about it, and by Travis, and from there, I wrote the scripts and that was over a couple years process. Not because it took that long necessarily, but just go out and do it. We were just took our time or whatever, but that was kind of where it started.
Excellent. Something for the viewers out there, if anyone has any questions, there's a couple of ways to send them in. The first way is to go to the Hangout. You'll see the Q&A and the Q&A app there. If you click on it, there's a question section there. You can submit your questions, and I will see them show up here. I will choose anything that's appropriate. Or you can use the hashtag Life of Matt. I'm following that hashtag now, and I'll be letting you know and reading the questions on air. As much user interaction is what I'm looking forward to here. So to dive into the next one, what were your main influences for making Life of Matt? Where did the idea come from?
I think our biggest influence was definitely the movie Swingers. I know we're both pretty big fans of that movie, and seen it about 1,000,000 times, and I know that was one of our we wanted to try and translate jokes from that movie and the theme of that movie into something modern day, and the modern, sort of the millennial modern day dating and what it's like to be 20-something, meeting women, living in LA, doing that whole thing, and that was one of our main influences.
Go ahead.
Also, real life experiences.
Yeah, most of it's based off of pretty much Matt's real life, closely. You always write what you know, and so I think a lot of that comes across as funny because it's actually true. Most of it is reality, so it works.
It's funny because I didn't date in the app world, if you will, and I've seen it. I'm a tech head. I've always liked to kind of get to know all these little things. Something like Tinder is something I, being a married man, would never install on my phone for fear of divorce. So I'm curious to see what it's about, but in the same breath, I'm like, it's not worth it. So it's interesting to see people dating in this app world, and it's pretty much been the dating world for at least the last 5 years, as far as I know. Is it really like the stories that we're seeing? Are they dramaticed up a little bit from your real life experiences, or is that more or less what happened?
We find the funny in it, but that's kind of what's, in a weird way, you can almost learn all the standard stuff that you would need to learn about somebody before you even meet the person, because of between profiles and Instagrams and their Snapchat. I mean, you can kind of just get a total feel for them without even actually meeting them in person. So that was we did the Tinder episode. It was, even though Tinder's been around for a little bit, we kind of want to look back of what's that experience like when the first time you make this, dating profile. And when you say some of the things out loud, it's really funny. Like the type of, people will ask their pictures, you have like 6 pictures. I mean, how do you sum yourself up in 6 pictures? And the one joke about, do you have a picture with a dog? It's like, most of the batches sometimes I get is just, oh, we think you have a really cute dog. I don't even have a dog. It's my friend's dog. But it's things like that that you know, I just always thought is so funny, and so I just started writing them down, and when it acted out, it kind of worked.
Good stuff. Now, for Life of Matt and for me, I'm in my 40s, so to me, it had this kind of Friends meets How I Met Your Mother kind of vibe, which are two shows I was a big fan of. Why did you guys choose traditional media, or sorry, non-traditional media, the digital space to pitch this idea, to put this idea out there, as opposed to perhaps traditional media, where this kind of idea often works?
Well, this answer is because we wanted it to be seen. Technology allows you to, with the cameras and editing now, you're able to go out and shoot something, and with YouTube, put it out there quickly. So, we thought we have we have this idea that we think we can go out and execute, versus maybe, trying to spend years getting anybody in this town, Hollywood, to read the script and say, oh, this is a TV show, and go through that process, and that, how expensive it is. We looked at digital and said, we can just go do this. There's nothing holding us back. You want to add it to any of that, Travis?
Yeah, and part of that is, our background. We've actually been working sort of in TV, short-form TV, kind of promos and trailers, movie trailers and stuff. So we kind of had an idea of what it takes to kind of go out and shoot something or like do short-form stuff. And we'd always wanted to kind of get into the digital space because we kind of saw that as the future and kind of, everything that's happening. And like Matt said, we've been working on this for a few years. It just kind of took that long to get it all together. But we'd always pitched it at the original idea when we originally talked about it, that we wanted to do some sort of web series, something digital, something that we could actually do, ourselves, because like I said, our background in promos, we're both kind of editors, writers, producers, so we kind of already have all that going. So we're like, why don't we just go for it and do this? And it just made sense. Instead of trying to get somebody else to buy it or look at it or do it that way, we just kind of said, well, screw it, let's do it ourselves and put it out there and at least get it done and at least do it and see how it turns out.
No, it's a very common answer, and I just asked the question just for everybody's individual kind of story on how they get there. I mean, you get to play by your own rules, and you don't have to play someone else's game. You have full creative control. You could do what you want when you want. If you missed a week, you miss a week. It's a lot easier to do it, but there's a lot more out of pocket, of course, which is something we'll get to in a little bit. But you mentioned both of you guys having this background. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about Creative Collision?
Well, off and on, Travis and I have been working together almost 4 years now. And about a year ago, with kind of the way the freelance world is out here, we decided to partner up. And we have another partner too who helped produce Life of Matt. And Creative Collision is basically, it's a production company. But a lot of companies these days are looking for video as an outlet, not just traditional. I have $50,000. You make me a commercial that I'll put on TV. I want a YouTube channel with videos every week. I want you to do Facebook video. What do you do on Instagram? It's really digital content, and that's kind of, we took our skills that we learned in television and promo and are applying it now to your average brand. It doesn't have to be just strictly editing down a movie trailer or a TV show.
Yeah, and it was really kind of the freedom to do our own thing and be able to shoot our own thing and kind of be our own creative. And after working for other companies and doing other people's visions and other people's things, we were like, well, we can do this. Why don't we give it a shot and see what we can come up with? And the way the digital space was changing and the way everything's with startups and smaller companies, it's easier to go out and pitch smaller companies and try and get a few projects here and there from them while also trying to land a bigger project. So we just kind of saw the value in having our own space to do that in. And then along with that, because of our background and because of what we had in our connections, we were also able to do Life of Matt through that, which kind of, the synergy of it all just kind of works together. And we were like, well, we already have this company, why don't we run this through that and kind of make it all one big entity, which has been great.
No, the one thing about digital medium that you hear it 10 times, 100 times, you should be between 3 and 5 minutes. per piece of content. As soon as you pass that 5-minute threshold, unless you're incredibly engaging, and that's no disrespect to the masses, you lose audience. So
Yeah.
you guys have done a great job. You hit that 3-minute sweet spot almost on every single episode, and it's part of the reason I really enjoyed it. It's you get the meat of the story from the beginning to the end, and big fan of that. So thank you guys very much for that.
Yeah, and while it seems easier, and you would think, oh, it's easy just to come up with 3 minutes or 5 minutes of something or script.
No.
It's not. It's actually harder because you're trying to pack it all in there to make it make sense in 3 minutes, or to get across these ideas in 3 minutes that have to also come to fruition in later episodes. So it's kind of, you don't have the space to draw things out.
I mean, I do vlogging, and for me to do a 5-minute vlog is so tough because you gotta you gotta be really succinct. You gotta be really kind of scripted, and you gotta be to the point, and that's the key point is being to the point. Yet still, in your case, funny, because I mean, I think everybody knows comedy is the toughest thing to do. It's not easy, especially when you have such a small time frame to work within.
Yeah, and you're trying to get payoffs in every, you're always trying to get the payoff in that 3 minutes, and it's tough. It can be tough.
Very tough. But you guys are doing well, and because of that, what suggestions would you give to aspiring digital creators from a business standpoint, since that is really where a lot of your strength is, and something that I don't think I've had anyone able to really talk at length at?
Well, it's tough. I would say the first thing is just go out and shoot. Also, kind of know what your skill set is and build from there. As a trade, I'm an editor, so I knew that if I had the footage, it would be my responsibility to edit it, which is a huge part of the digital side of things, because that's what takes a lot of the time. And then, from a business standpoint, I think, just be smart with your costs. You don't need to really, have massive budgets for some of this stuff when you start off, because you don't want to get yourself in a hole, because you're probably not going to get a return right away. But you're also never going to even get in the room of conversation, to have the conversation about making money off stuff if you don't have anything done. You can have these little vignette scripts as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you need to go out and produce them.
Yeah, I think to further on that, I think Matt's right. Like, the biggest thing is just go shoot it. I mean, everything's so available to you now. It's, you need to just go shoot it and get used to doing that, because through that you learn, because no one's going to go out and shoot something great your first time. You need to have practice. You need to be able to do it and just try and do content. And then, like you said, play to your strengths. Like, once you learn what you know how to do, you can't do everything good. So try and focus in on, what you do well, and let other people help you along the way. Like with our company, the three of us, we each have our own sort of strength, and together it really works. Trying to do it separately, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but if you can all do it together, it's great. And as for the business side of it, like you said, the cost, you really don't get a big return on things, so it's kind of like, be smart about it, see what you can get for your money. Everything's pretty cheap right now. I mean, obviously you need to pay. Sound is the biggest thing. If you're shooting something, you always want to make sure you have good sound. Second is good lighting, or at least good lenses to pick up good lighting. And then hopefully, have your actors good that can work together, and hopefully have a set that everybody gets along on. And, then it comes through. I think all those things put together is what makes it successful.
Yeah, universally, sound top, lighting second. A lot of people are like, well, I can't film unless I have a good camera. So, well, that's the less, you can get away with, a little grainier picture if your sound and your
quality
are
good. Shoot on your iPhone now,
Yeah,
I mean, shoot on your iPhone 6 and it's good enough. I mean, you can do full on, especially because everybody's watching it on an iPhone, so it doesn't have to be.
Sure.
Right.
And coming from the world that we came from, that was one thing that we really noticed, and why we want to get into the digital space, was we went from doing these big theatrical spots and these big television spots that were all sound designed and looked pretty. And what it comes down to now is when you're watching it on the small screen, people don't really care as much about the sound design. They don't really care as much about the visual. It doesn't have to be as gorgeous as, it does when you're watching it on a big screen. So it really helps, like, narrow it down for what you can do.
Excellent. Now you guys did something I've never seen before, and that's you kind of have a mixed vlog narrative with kind of a cam scenario where you're traditionally filming. I actually really liked it. I thought it was quite refreshing. What made you guys decide to go down this route of really kind of having a mixed style for presentation?
Well,
do you want to go first, Joe?
Well, I was just going to say, to be honest with you, it's just one of those things when you get into post-production and you start looking at things and you realize maybe we don't exactly have the right shots that we wanted, or maybe we don't exactly have the right storytelling in this episode, so what can we do to get that across, or how can we remedy that? And Matt actually came up with a great idea that worked fabulous. Like, it totally played into the whole thing. So it was kind of an on-the-fly type decision of kind of came up that week before posting it, and it totally worked.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, agreed. I
Yeah.
liked it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure, Matt, if you want to expand on it, I mean, it was your idea. You kind of took the reins on that one.
My feed was dragging a little bit right.
Oh, are you there? Are you back?
I think so.
Okay, we can just roll on then.
Okay.
Why don't you guys explain the concept of Life of Matt? I know we've been kind of talking a little bit about it, but like, how did this concept come about? I know you say it's life experiences, but what's kind of the message that that you want to tell, or what's the world you want to frame it within?
Well, there's a little bit the root of there's some combining that with the technology anxiety, and we're trying to find the humor in that. So right off the bat, that's kind of where the humor stems from. And there's a lot of the jokes in there, like Matt's for my date 3 hours ahead of time because I want to be on time, and the nerves are getting to you. We thought a lot of that was funny. And at the end of the day, we just kind of want to explore with our with as a society, because I think that a lot of the mainstream shows are touching on it, but they're not really diving into it. And so you either have kind of like you don't really address it, or you do address it, and we address it. So we always try to make there be tech elements in each episode, whether it's a FaceTime or text or Tinder app or Uber. So that was one part of it. And at the end of the day, I think as we continue to do more of these, we kind of want to get back to the message that just do it old school. Just go up and talk to people, and maybe you don't learn technology as much. So we're embracing the technology side of it, but also making fun of it a little bit, because there are people out there that are like, man, I've had people message me say, oh, I've had that happen, or I've had this happen, but they may not talk about it because they may think it's embarrassing, whereas I find it hilarious, and a lot of other people have found it funny. So I think that's kind of the one thing that we've kind of focused on.
Excellent. Now, I guess to just get to you guys and personally, how do you guys feel about digital dating apps? Are they something that you are, they're part of your world, you enjoy them, they kind of have their uses, or are you more cynical against them? You'd rather just go up to someone and shake their hand in a bar?
I don't take them too seriously. Sometimes I've had friends that have been in relationships, and they've been so interested in them because they haven't had them, and now some of those friends are not in relationships. So I'm observing that they're a year behind. Since Tinder's been out 2 years, and I've been on it, and but I usually just don't take it too seriously. I think it's complicated things. I think you can use them as a tool, and I think it is a great way to meet people. But I just don't think you should take it that seriously. But I think they've kind of complicated the process versus what it used to be. You just had to go make eye contact with a girl, go up to her at a bar and say, hi, my name is this, and now people have struggled doing that.
Right. I'm kind of like you, though, Blair. In mine, I haven't used dating apps. I'm in my early 40s and have been dating someone the last 5 years in a serious relationship, so I've kind of missed the whole Tinder app. I'm like you, I've never actually gone on Tinder. I just kind of like I live vicariously through Matt's stories with a lot of the dating stuff and his friends and their generation of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting world. I mean, I thought it was crazy enough when there was just online dating and like the Match.coms and those things, but now it's gotten into a whole new level, and who knows where it's going to go from there. It's interesting to watch how it grows and what it is and how fast it changes, how fast the technology moves. Who knows what kids will be using to date in the future? I mean, it's crazy.
No, because Blair, the other side of it that people don't realize, it is not just a dating. First of all, there's more than one dating app, so you're not on Tinder. You can be on Tinder, OkCupid. Well, there's like
Right.
4 or 5 dating apps you can have. Then from there, people will guess your name, and then they will check your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Snapchat, all these other
Right.
things. So when the web of online and app dating starts, it's so much bigger than just, oh, I have a nice smile shot on my Tinder and I say the hobbies that I like to do. It's so much bigger than that, and that's what I think is funny, but also what's made it totally more complicated than it really has to be.
Well,
I think it's like that line. That line,
Good.
sorry, that line that like Ori says in the one episode that like all day long women are looking at me, or like I feel like because it's out there all day long I have girls checking me out. I think that and that's kind of the way it is. Like you're no longer have to worry about going in a bar and people looking at you. It's already out there. Like everything's out there, and
Right.
In general, I see social media as a tool. It's just something that I can use for however I want to use. I have a very similar opinion to Matt. I don't take these things too seriously. People are like, oh, why are you so on Facebook anymore? That's so 1995 or whatever. And I'm just like, well, because Facebook's a tool, and I use it for a very specific thing. I use Twitter for something else, and I use Tumblr for even more things. Like for me, they're tools. They're things that you as you said, should not take seriously. If anyone starts taking the digital world, I think, too seriously, they get lost and they kind of lose the ability to really relate to people on a human level. I mean, it's easy for me to say that. I've kind of seen both sides of the coin where, this generation coming up, they may not see the other side of the coin until, oh, let's try this old school, like it's some sort of game to try one night. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned it earlier, and it's something that I had a question here. It's all writers are encouraged to write what you know, and this show seems like a perfect platform for that. Matt or Travis, whose ever personal details have been pulled for these stories, you guys feel comfortable sharing your real life versions of what these things have been from?
Sure. Travis, do you want to intro me? Or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they're. I mean, it's funny because, like I said before, in real life, you couldn't make some of this stuff up, and Matt's had some interesting experiences, and they're definitely. It's just every time you're like, that's I mean, we go out now to the bars, and we're constantly going, oh, that's something for season 2. Oh, that's totally something for season 2. Like there's just always something happening that you can always relate to. That you're like, oh, that would be perfect. That's a total life of Matt story right there, or something. And his stories just never stop, and he's the kind of person that's not afraid to put it out there. One of the original incarnations of the idea for this was it was just going to be about some guys that came home after the bar, and we changed it to more of being just centrally about Matt because his stories were what kind of resonated through that. So we kind of changed it to being more on him because it was more on point that way, and he's not afraid to share, what happens to him. So it makes for good television or content, I guess you could say. So.
And some of the specifics I'll tell you is the first episode when I asked the girl what kind of soda is in her vodka soda. People think is a hilarious line. I actually said in real life. The over texting is something that I'm known for, that I make fun of myself for all the time, because you feel like and that really was. When I watched Swingers, I was like, oh my gosh, if you text too much, this is the equivalent of when Jon Favreau's character leaves too many voicemails. This is what it's like in 2015. So there's that element. The mom on FaceTime, that's straight out of my life. The forgetting girls' names. I'm not great with girls' names, so writing them down in your phone and then mixing them up. So a lot of this stuff is. You fabricate it to make it funny, but some of it is just, these are just real experiences that we put in a script format. So it was interesting because it's not a reality show. It's still scripted, but it's more of a Curb Your Enthusiasm type way that we went about it.
And it's all very relatable, which I think is the key thing. Is like everyone has these kinds of moments or these kind of experiences or these kinds of similar experiences. So everybody kind of. We're trying to go for that thing where people get it, or people like, oh yeah, I've had that, or that's a friend of mine had that happen to them, or something, so you can kind of relate to it.
Perfect. Now, the characters of Kyle and Ralph, obviously their personalities are built up for laughs. I'm not quite sure how much they're like your friends. We can get into that a little bit later. I personally find these types of characters the building blocks of great comedy. You need to have people with extreme personalities in order to have a space to work within. But at some point, you do develop the options to further the characters. They become more than just personalities that lead to laughs. Sorry. Do you see you guys ever kind of building on the characters of Kyle and Ralph, or is this really just going to be Matt's story and kind of him as the centralized character, the good guy in the group, I guess, is one guy's the weird guy, one guy's kind of the sleazy guy, and the other one's kind of the good guy. So do you see that dynamic ever changing?
Not really, but our big joke is, like, we keep saying that we're going to do a spin-off on Ralph's character because he gets the laughs because he's always kind of that funny oddball character, and he's kind of the standout from, like, so far. But I don't know. I think it'll always centrally be around Matt. It's funny because I think originally we kind of had the Kyle character a little bit even further of being kind of the jerk that he is, so we kind of pulled him back a little, and the Ralph character kind of goofy as he was, and so that one kind of expanded a little. So I think it'd be fun to kind of explore them more, definitely. I think there's a lot of room there, especially with like how we just left off with Kyle in the last episode. You kind of get to see more of the kind of character that he is, the kind of person that he is, and I think that's something that definitely starts to build his character and kind of shows the kind of person Matt is in relation to that. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll always be centrally about Matt, but it is fun to see kind of how those characters have evolved, even just through this season.
Yeah, the other thing that I'll add to, which is interesting, is you always want to write more and more. But what's interesting is when you do something like when you commit to only telling a story in 3 or 4 minutes, you kind of have to have your format. So you don't really have the luxury to go off and do a 5-minute subplot or sub-story about Kyle's character or Ralph's character. So right now in this format, we have to kind of stick to what we've been doing. But to Travis's point, Ralph, by my buddy Jeremiah, gets people just love his screen presence. So as we do more episodes, we'll want to try to give him some more time, and build off that. So I think it's once you kind of everyone's in their lane, so to speak, is when you can grow on it. But when you're doing this type of format, you have to be careful because you can't, people are tuning in, with web series and YouTube shorts and stuff, people are coming to watch the same type of thing. So you do that format. But down the road, hopefully, if we can make this a much bigger, bigger than 3 minutes. Of course, we have backstories of what Kyle does in his job. Ralph, is kind of like a Kramer where he just has money, but you don't necessarily know his story. So we've definitely thought about those things, and moving forward, we want to be able to write some of that in as people kind of get to know the characters. It made sense when we were shooting this and developing it. We were just like, well, Matt has to. These are Matt's stories, so Matt has to kind of own it. And so that's kind of the where it is now.
No, you actually brought up a good point and something that I think a lot of people that want to start into the story building process, sometimes they just kind of sit down with the blank page and start from scratch. You mentioned it. There's a backstory for each of these characters. I mean, you're filming 3-minute shorts, and they still have fully fleshed out backstories. I think it's key to make sure that when you're building any character, for anyone out there who's wanting to do this, to have that, so that you know how your character is going to react to every kind of situation that presents itself. It's almost like a roadmap on somebody's behavior moving forward, as opposed to kind of being all over the place. Which I know some people in the digital space, when they're filming, they just kind of write, and they don't have that background ready, so that the person kind of has a compass to point them to where they need to go. So that's awesome. I guess, quick question, how did you guys fund Life of Matt?
That's a loaded question. We called in a lot of favors for that. I don't really know what it was. It was definitely not thousands and thousands of dollars. Travis and I each have our own gear. You know, Travis jumped right behind and was being a camera operator. You know, I was putting up, you know, doing set design, and you know, really the reason we were able to do it is we shot all of these in 2 days.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing.
Yeah, and our other producer really made that happen because she comes from the, you know, we literally wrote every script and said, this actor needs to be here for 40 minutes, and then we're going to go. So we shot it all out of order, but we were able to do it in 2 days. So that's how you were able. That's how we were able to get the cost down. And then, you know, Travis having his camera and me being able to edit, and that all of that, which is usually a huge cost, you know, we didn't have to worry about that either. And you know, in Andrews, we're very fortunate that a lot of actors and actresses, you know, they can come in and you know they will, you know, they want to work because they want to have, you know, more material. So it was just a combination of a lot of things.
There was, yeah, it was, like he said, the biggest thing was that we just finally decided we weren't going to make this a big shoot. Like, we were like, if we're going to have everybody together, it's going to be too hard to try and do it over a period of time. Let's just knock it all out in 48 hours. And we shot one full day in Matt's apartment and did all those scenes that you see in the apartment. And then we went to a bar restaurant and shot all night there one night from about, what was it, like 11 at night till about 4 in the morning, and just did it all basically that night and shot it all in 2 days. So we kept the cost really low. You know, again, like you pay for sound, you pay for some lighting. We have the gear, which was nice. We didn't have to pay for location. We did go get some furniture and stuff, which, you know, we did end up kind of returning some things. And, you know, you just kind of do it the guerrilla way and do what you have to do. And, you know.
Which also is, you know, we're inspired by the Swinger story. You know, those guys didn't have permits ever. They were hiding the camera, you know, under clothes when they were going into bars. And, so it's, you know, yeah. we always kind of came back to that in a weird way.
And it always makes it better, you know? I mean, when you're standing out there in an alley and you have lighting 1 minute and then the light goes off and you got to figure out how can we light this and work around this, and, you know, and then that's the other thing, you got to be able to do it on the fly, and things change. I mean, you know, we had other locations in mind, they didn't work out, so it was just a constant, you know, you never know. It's fun that way, but you never know. And, you know, I think for the most part that we really didn't spend a whole lot on it because, you know, I mean, I think your big expenditures is gear and stuff, just time. I mean, can't really put a price on time, but it's, you know, it's worth it.
2 days. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I actually I was a member of. I shot a web show that's it's airing, I think, the beginning of next year. We did, I think, 8 or 9 episodes, and that took us 7 days. So I have a lot more respect for being able to hammer out what you guys did in the short time frame you did. Something I've now, since I've been a part of the process, when we shot ours, we pretty much shot it in order. So I actually found it very easy to be able to kind of grow with the story when we were able to do that. Shooting out of order just kind of scares me a little bit, but I'm sure professional actors do it all the time. So how did you guys find that? Did you have problems finding, you know, how things should flow, or is it just a skill you pick up the more you do it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a skill you pick up as you do it. I think you have to have good leadership on set to know where you are and what you're doing, and, you know, where everybody is. And obviously the actors play a role in that, you know, being professional, knowing their lines and knowing what scene we're switching to and stuff. But again, a lot of it, like, we kind of knew the scripts like the back of our hand because we'd been over it so many times. So, like, those of us on the production side of it knew what the setups were, knew what the scenes were, knew where we were going to be. So from that aspect, we knew kind of our parts, and it was kind of easy just to place, you know, the actors that were stand-ins for the days or whatever, to just kind of put them in their scenes. And luckily, most of them picked it up right away. Like the girls, especially, you know, they were great. They nailed their lines, and that always helps. That makes it easier when you don't have to keep going back. Because that's the other thing. Like, you know, maybe 2-3 takes at the most. Sometimes we just like kept the camera running and would just start over and run the scene again. And it wasn't a whole lot of like stop down, do a, you know, sound speed in like a whole take. It was just kind of like, go with it, let's shoot it, let's see what we got, improv some of those lines, you know. And so it kind of had that whole feel kind of the whole time to it.
The other, you know, the uglier answer too is that we just shot a lot and figured a lot of it out in post. I think having the post-production experience, we knew that, you know, some people that don't have all of that post experience and the tech behind it think, oh no, we didn't get that, we can't make it work. And it's like, no, if you have 2 cameras going through this whole scene and you get it, you're pretty much done. You know, if you do that 1 or 2 times, you can go into the edit, and then, you know, once in the edit, that's where you can also get really creative. And one thing I think is interesting about digital content is that if you know how to edit, or you can work with somebody that's really good at how to edit, it can help make the process. It can almost like reverse the process. Where a lot of people think, oh, you have to have your script and then you have to direct it perfectly and then you can edit it, but you can also really create a lot of the finished product. You know, when you're doing digital content in post. So like if there's half of a page and it said, oh, these text messages on screen, actors when they were doing it were like, I have no, you know, whatever. I'm like, no, I need to, you know, we need to film you for 1 minute just pretending that you're on your phone. And then when you put it in post, it kind of all comes together. So I think really having, you know, the post-production experience helped, you know, tremendously. Like, you know, like the one episode with the vlog, it was like, you know, we don't have everything we need here, but, you know, we can go in and create this, you know, fake blog world, and edit in some flashbacks, and you have your, you know, finished episode.
Yeah, to have that vision, to know the vision in your head, and be able to, you know, explain that to the actors and be like, just trust us. We know how it's going to look. We know the finished outcome in our head. We know what it's going to be. Let's just do that instead of worrying about, oh, well, I don't know how we're going to get this. We don't quite know what we're going to do with this. We kind of had that alleviated and kind of knew what we were doing. And like Matt said, like knowing post and knowing what we had, we could always make something work in the edit. And it's true. You can always fix it in post like that. You know, they always say it, and it's true.
I think the show we shot, we had a count of 68 fix it in posts that they put on the script. So they kind of sending out the random notes to the cast afterwards. I'm like, okay, well, good luck with that. So, all right, now normally, actually, before I get into this question, you guys knew the script forwards and backwards, you were saying, and you did mention improv. There are some, I actually find series that are kind of on one side or the other on this. There are some that are stick to the script, and those that are, hey, have fun with it. Let's see what you could do via improv. Did you guys swing one way more than the other, or were you kind of a happy medium between the two?
I would say a happy medium, only that each script was almost a scenario. You know, and so when we got into it, we told the actors this is what's happening, but we were not strict on the script. All of the actors that were in this were great improvers, so improv was totally, you know,
allowed,
we were totally supportive. Yeah, allowed. Totally supportive.
You know, with the scripts, we kind of had like the basis of it and what they were going to do, and kind of the main lines. You know, there were some funny lines in there that Matt had put in that we wanted to make sure they hit, or that somehow, you know, no matter where you go off the page, try and come back to at least get back to this point somehow, which I think they all did. And, you know, sometimes the improv comes out better anyway because it's a little bit more natural. It's a more natural flow instead of trying to remember the exact line and trying to do that. So we wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable. And it wasn't like a stress factor if you didn't get it. Okay, now we got to stop down and reshoot it. No, it was like, just go, just let it go, just try and feel it, and just like, you know, you guys are 3 guys hanging out. You're friends anyway. Just make it happen. Just like, you know, feel it and let it go.
Yeah, it was very much. We had 2 cameras rolling at all times, and you know, because I was handling the post, you know, we didn't. I mean, I'm not saying all of it was a walk in the park when it came to post, but you know, we didn't take the time to stop down and reslate everything, and if people got a groove, just said, hey, do that again, we're going. And that's where, you know, there may have been 3 or 4 improv jokes at one point, and then you kind of move to the next one. So there were certain things that we had to make sure we got, like when you forget the girls' names, you have to make sure that you're forgetting this girl, and then make sure that all kind of came together. So certain episodes like that one, and this week's episode 2, you know, when both girls show up at the same place, those were the ones that were a little bit, we had to kind of make sure we reference back to the script and remember to hit these points so it made sense. But we were definitely open to the improv more than having to, you know, lock camera here, get this line, nope, you missed one word, gotta do it again. So
yeah, you work within this framework and make sure to hit this very important key plot point. I like that form better. Some people are like, no, we are serious on the script, and I just go, okay, and then I move on. But I actually kind of prefer the ones that have that little bit of play that improv. I agree with you. It comes across a lot more naturally. Now, normally I ask people if they believe the digital space is a fad, but I think at this point I might cut that question out of this because anyone I'm interviewing doesn't believe it's a fad, and you guys in particular, since it's kind of your livelihood. How have you seen it grown since you first started? And I mean, I would presume you guys are pretty much kind of on, the front doorstep when this thing became a thing, and you're growing within it.
Yeah, I think where we used to work, it was right when it was starting to come into play, like the digital space, and Matt had the vision at that time to try and convince our boss at the time that, hey, there's this new frontier that's kind of opening up. It might be worth trying to get into, and at that time, there just wasn't the money, like there still really isn't a lot of money behind it, but at that time, especially when you're doing giant TV promos and trailers and stuff, and you see the money on what it costs to do that stuff, and then you look at a digital thing, you're like, it doesn't make sense financially to do that, but we kind of always pushed for it, and we kind of always saw the value to it and kept saying, well, it's only going to get bigger. It's not like it's going to go away. It's only going to get bigger. It's going to change. It's only going to grow because, Matt's generation stuff, the cord cutters as they're called, they're leaving television to go to this digital medium and watch shows this way. So it was kind of that thing where it's like one way or another it's going to happen. And part of the reason we did start our own company was the frustration of nobody really listening to us in that space and being like, well, you know what, screw it, let's go do it ourselves. We know it's going to blow up. We know it's going to be something. Let's go try and get into it and do it.
All right. First viewer question is coming from Ryan Colburn. What was your favorite part of filming Life of Matt?
Well, it happened so quickly. I would say when we were done.
Rapping?
I finally being able to work with the actors that play Kyle and Ralph for me, because I had been friends with those guys for a while and we've been talking about this forever. To actually get that done and have those moments on set was just an absolute blast. And the three of us we got along really great, and those guys really brought great energy. And the improv between the three of us happened, so naturally. So for me, that was a fun part because you do so much pre-production work and writing and all of this stuff. So to just be able to act in those scenes for me was the most enjoyable part.
I think shooting at the bar, the night scenes at the bar, some of the stuff in the alley, and then shooting the restaurant scene where he had the Tinder date, I thought was some of the, I just liked the way it was lit, the way we shot it, the setup. That was that whole night was some of my favorite shooting, the whole bar scene. Plus we got to have a lot of our friends come in as extras and play extras, which was fun to have them around, and everybody got to kind of be a part of it and experience it. And that was, even though it was a hectic, crazy night, it was still, that's what it's all about. Once you're on set and things are going, you get that adrenaline and everything kind of just comes together, and it's great when stuff works like that. That's what I live for. That's the juice, being on set and shooting that stuff. It's so fun.
I have to admit that I really enjoyed the lighting in the show. I mean, especially even like your promo pictures are all kind of like that candlelight type of lighting. I normally don't pick out little technical things like that, but there was just a feel to it. It added a warmth to the episodes that I've really enjoyed. Have you guys? Yeah, no problem. Have you guys thought of entering Life of Matt into any of the local web festivals? I know there's one called geekfestla.com, or geekfestla, but it's geekfestla.com that's coming up that I'm suggesting to anyone that I know who's in the LA area. Is this something that you guys are interested in, kind of doing these festival circuits to get more eyes on your work and meet other digital creators?
Yeah, I think so for sure. Been so into the part of this that's up to each Thursday is like, oh, I got to get this done, got to get it posted, and then you have to breathe, and then you got to go right to the next one. So we're gonna have a little bit of a break in some of them, and I think that will be a point where we absolutely try to get into a lot of these. We have to do more of our own research on it. There's one that we already have reached out to. I forget what it's called, indie web something. But yeah, I think that's an interesting emerging area because everyone's like film festivals, and then I submitted my short, and now it's I submitted my web series. So it's definitely something we're going to explore.
Yeah, for sure.
I notice a lot of cross-pollination between collaborations happens at these festivals as well. I know a lot of my favorite people all met each other at these things, and then all of a sudden they're working together, and it's like it's just a bomb of people that I love working together, and it's I really like the scene. I enjoy that they're doing. They've tried to organize some high-end award shows. Some of them have gone very well, some of them not so much, but they're trying, and they're trying to create a market, and I really appreciate that.
Well, that's the whole thing with the space right now. You know, you try things, some of it fails, but you learn from it and move on. And in this space right now, it's so organic and it's so growing that yeah, you never know what's going to pop and what isn't. But it's fun to be a part of it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So, what kind of web content do you guys watch?
I love watching interviews with the people that are in the shows, the movies, and I would say musicians. So if you're an actor, director, writer, producer, or musician, I think what's really cool about the digital space is that you're finding interviews from. You can find an interview on almost anybody. So anybody that you look up to or you're interested in, you can then watch that behind-the-scenes type stuff. And I'll say Travis right now because he's done behind-the-scenes work all the time. Just to be able to go on and a combination of watching things that were done way before YouTube was even around. So if you like a band like the Rolling Stones, you go and find stuff that was shot in the 80s or whatever, and it's up there now. So you can get lost into that world. So that's the type of stuff that I really like to watch, and I get sucked into.
Yeah, like Matt said, like a lot of my background, a lot of stuff I like doing, a lot of stuff I've done, or like EPK type stuff, or like behind-the-scenes interviews with cast and crew members and stuff. So I always like watching those types of things and watching how they're done, watching the new ways, like how people are shooting them or anything different about them and stuff like that. And then as far as like what digitally what we watch is pretty much just sort of everything, like anything on the spaces, anything we can find that's short, like we talked about before. It's got to be under that 5-minute window because I have the worst attention span. Like I am, within the first 45 seconds, even I'll be like, okay, I'm done with this. Where's it going? If it doesn't grab a thing at least, or at least thought-provoking or silly or something that I'll be into. But yeah, I don't know. Content. There's so much content out there now that it's just it's overwhelming to a point. So you kind of got to know what you're looking for. You can get really lost too, and just go down these crazy rabbit holes and spend hours a day and not come out of it and not know what you just watched anyway.
Do you remember that very first time you logged into YouTube and you had a day to burn and you burnt it? Because I think everybody in the digital space has had that day, and you're just like, how did I get here? I'm all of a sudden watching monkeys in the forest when originally I was trying to look up hockey stuff. I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy the path, and there's
the little videos that keep coming up on the right side that you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know why that's over there. And then you end up watching that, and then you're like, well, what other videos does this person have? And then you're just you're down this freaking wormhole and you don't know what the heck's going on, and yeah.
I still watch the Spider vs. the Scorpion video once a year, and I think that was like the first video I watched on YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's just it too. You go back to some of those classics, like the old viral classics, and you're just like, I can't believe this now has 200,000 or 200 million hits now or something. You're like, I remember when it first came out, and and it's such a crazy space. Like I was telling Matt, there's some. I mean, you never know what's going to catch or what people are going to like or what people are going to watch. I mean, there's a whole. I was just visiting our friends, and they have a little 4-year-old, and he's obsessed with the YouTube videos where people open up a package of a toy, and it's just their hands playing with the toy. And some of these things have like 200 million views on these things, and you're like, how in the world? And it's just somebody, and the kid is obsessed with it, and it's crazy. So, and you look at that space, and you're like, how does that work? How does that become something? But again, it's content. You never know what's gonna blow up.
Yeah, my nephew just can't get enough of Minecraft videos, so they all have something. Everybody's got their jam.
It's true. Yeah, it's and there's a video for everybody. Like they always say, like there's a movie for everybody or whatever. Now there's literally a video for everybody.
True. All right, so if you guys were to reshoot Life of Matt from scratch, if you were to choose one or two things that you would reshoot differently, and probably not get into any of the content that we haven't seen yet, what would you do?
I'd just say some of the camera angles. We do like the floating camera, but that you also take a risk because you may miss a great reaction or you may miss a really good take of the line. So I would have just probably gone back and made sure that we did get certain reactions from times a little bit better. It's just that's always one thing that when I'm in the edits, I'm like, oh, I wish we just kind of had the camera turn this way, or I wish my head was a little bit closer to the camera. So that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I think some of the kitchen shots we talked about, we would rather have a little bit more distance between some of the angles were a little off in there, but it was a tight location. But yeah, I agree. We could have reshot a couple of things, and then for me, it would have been fun to actually get a little bit more time with the actors beforehand and really get everybody kind of ironed out. You know, like you always say that, you're always like, oh, I wish we had more time. But really, it was kind of like to get the feeling down, to get that sort of group camaraderie together, really, and really nail it down. But like I said, we shot it in 48 hours, so you're not really going to get a lot of that together. But going forward, you can see where the building blocks are there for like how they interact and how they are. So I think like once we start up again, it'll be interesting to see how much they've grown, together as actors, and see what where it goes.
All right. The world is your oyster. You can choose anyone. I'm going to give you two choices here. You can choose someone from the world at large, and you can choose someone who's kind of more famous in the digital space. If you were to have any guest star of one of each of those, who would each of you guys like to have?
Travis?
Oh, geez, I don't know. That's a tough one. Oh man, I don't know.
I mean, I have like the I'll give the correct answer that we should say, and then I'll give the one that I think would be great. It would be really cool to be able to film with Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau from Swingers, just because characters are based on those guys, and when we do that with the cameos that kind of started it would be fun. For me, I would I think having Chris Martin from Coldplay would be funny because I'm actually a massive Coldplay fan, and there's some jokes that happen in Life of Matt, but unlike play as a punchline, I think that to have him in there as a genuine fan would be pretty cool. So that would be my answer.
Of course, yeah. I think I definitely
you knew that was coming.
Of course, and why not? Yeah, I think I definitely think either Favreau or Vaughn would be excellent, or even anybody from Swingers just to make a cameo, because that was like our main, like what we really look at as our inspiration and kind of like what got us into it to do it. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know who else as far as like a world at large. Anybody that would be willing to come on, I think we would take and want to see would be great. Anybody that could boost our ratings, as they say.
Yeah, I hear that.
Any of those little digital stars that are, have 1 million followers can come on and make an appearance.
There's a lot of them, and a lot of them are young ladies. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the YouTube channel, when Life of Matt airs, and anything that we need to look forward to from the content yet to be seen.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/lifeofmattla. We post all the episodes by midnight on Wednesdays Pacific time, and that's because from being from the East Coast, we want to make sure that the episodes are up first thing Thursday. But Thursdays are kind of our day. So you can check it out. Go there, subscribe. We also have Travis is actually working on some behind-the-scenes stuff too. So we have some of that to look forward to. And there was a huge cliffhanger this week, so you're gonna have to tune in next week and see kind of what Matt does.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, after next week we have the finale. It's it's a good episode, and then after that we're gonna try and release a couple behind-the-scenes things, kind of keep the momentum going, and keep people seeing some stuff, and then we're in talks to maybe do hopefully a special, like some kind of, maybe not a Christmas special, but some kind of maybe Vegas spectacular or something with the guys to do a one-off episode, which would be fun. And then I don't know, we'll see.
Vegas sounds like a great idea with that cast.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we keep talking about, so we're kind of pushing that around. It'll be fun.
Real bit of men for sure.
A little bit of a hangover going on in that crew.
Yeah.
All right then. Where can people find you on the socials if they want to get in touch with you?
Life of Matt LA is it's both Instagram and Twitter.
Yep.
so that we post tons of stuff, all the time on there.
And then I think through our company, Creative Collision LA, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we post stuff on those basically all the time as well. So yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for tonight's episode. I want to, again, thank Travis and Matt for joining me here. And please check out Life of Matt. I really enjoy this show. It has that Friends, How I Met Your Mother, The Hangover, especially if they go to Vegas, kind of feel to it that I think you guys will enjoy. And
now we're
going
to have to.
Yeah, well, sorry, I just kind of made it happen there. Sorry, guys. But, I also really like the idea of showing 20-somethings dating in LA, especially using technology, because that's something that I think a lot of mainstream television isn't really diving too heavily into as of yet, and the digital space is prime for that. So, again, thank you guys very much for watching, and until next time, keep on streaming.
Thanks, Blair.
Thanks, Blair. Thank you.